Hi, my name is Alex Katz with AutoQuip Automation, and today we're going to be rebuilding a 70cc dispenser with the dispenser seal kit. You can purchase this on our website or by visiting one of our local distributors. So we can start by taking our pin tool and removing the packing nut. Then we can take our large adjustable and remove the packing seal nut. Slide that off and then push out the packing and the packing spacer on the inside. Put those off to the side on a rag because they are oily. Take out the rest of the contents, the seal scraper, and the rest of the packing. Then next, remove the size 20 Teflon O-ring on the inside of the top block. Then we can start removing our poppet valves. Okay, now that all the poppet valves are out, next what you're going to want to do is take a 7/16 wrench and start loosening the 1/4 bolts on the bottom block. Put your bolts and your tie rod standoffs off to the side. Now you can separate the top and bottom blocks from each other. Remove the fluid tubes and then remove your cylinder with your shaft and piston assembly. And now we can open the repair kit, take all the parts out of it. So now we will start putting the new components onto our dispenser. I'm going to start by taking off the O-rings on the piston. I'm going to take the new O-rings, put them into the grooves. Then I'm going to take some petroleum jelly and rub it on the O-rings. So now our new O-rings are on the piston and shaft. We're going to put that off to the side for later. Next, we can start by removing the size 10 Teflon O-rings for the fluid tubes. Take those out of the block and discard them. Take them out of your top block. Then we can take our new size 10 O-rings and place them into the blocks, going into the top. Put the size 10s in the bottom block now. And then take a little bit of petroleum jelly on a pick and just get it on the O-ring so that they don't come out when you're putting your fluid tubes back on. Just make sure they're seated properly. Okay. And next we can remove our size 28 O-rings, our Teflon O-rings that hold the cylinder. Discard. Take your new size 28 Teflon O-rings, do the same thing, put petroleum jelly on them to make sure they don't come out of place and that they seal correctly. Next, we got to change all of the Teflon O-rings and the poppet valves with the new size 13 Teflon O-rings. So we'll take all those out and discard them. Same thing with the other O-rings, just put some petroleum jelly on them. Put them into the groove on the bottom of your poppet valve. So now that all the O-rings are in the poppet valves, we can start assembling the blocks back together. So now we can continue on and just start rebuilding our dispenser. Put your cylinder in, make sure it's seated down. Take your fluid tubes on your bottom block, push them in, and take your shaft and piston, push it down all the way. Then carefully make sure your O-rings are seated properly in there. That's what the petroleum jelly is for. Make sure they're stuck in there. And then slide down your top lock. Get it seated properly. You'll know it's not seated properly if the block is crooked, which we're good there. Now we can turn it on its side. And we can just hold it tight together so those O-rings don't come out or the blocks don't separate. Then we'll take our 1/4 20 bolts and our tie rod standoffs, and we'll start bolting the dispenser back together. Now that all the bolts are in, you're going to want to keep it together still. You're going to want to tighten it in a diagonal pattern, so here to here, go back up, and then go diagonal again, just so the O-rings are seated properly. You don't want to crank them down right away, you just want to snug them down doing that pattern before you completely tighten them down all the way. Now that my pattern's done, we can tighten them down. Make sure they're all tight, just check them over when I'm done here. Okay, so now that the part of the dispenser is back together, now we can start by putting in our poppet valves now that the new O-rings are in those. Once the poppet valves are in the block, take your 7/8 wrench and tighten them down the rest of the way. Not tight, just enough to seat the O-rings. Snug them down, and then take your size 20 Teflon O-ring, put some petroleum jelly on it, rub it in, put it in the top block in the groove. Then you're going to want to take your seal scraper, the cone facing down going into the block, and then you're going to want to take your seal packing nut, put that on. With your big adjustable, just tighten down the seal nut the rest of the way. Okay. And then take your big packing. You want the V cup facing down. There's also a diagram on the parts list of how to put it in the correct way. So once that's in, before you put that in, put some petroleum jelly on it, just a little bit. Now you can slide it on. Take your seal spacer, that goes on next, and then take the rest of your packing. Same thing, make sure the V cup is facing down. Slide that on. Then take your packing nut, put it on upside down first to push down your packing to make sure everything is seated properly. Once everything is pushed down, then you can put your packing nut back onto the correct orientation. Tighten your packing nut down. Take your pin tool and just snug it, not very tight, because if you make it too tight, it will not, the shaft and piston will not go up and down smoothly. You gotta just make it snug with the pin tool, so that way the packing wears in properly. So next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull the piston all the way up like that till it tops out. Now we're on the final part of the rebuild, and we can begin adding new oil to the packing. We can start by taking off our reservoir cap, put it off to the side, and then take an 1/8 inch Allen and take off our plug. Then we'll take our ISO pump oil, and what you want to do is you want to fill it until you see oil coming out of where the plug was. Once oil comes out of the side where the plug was, then it's completely filled. So it's filled. Put our plug back in. And then put your reservoir cap back on. Now our 70cc dispenser is completely rebuilt.